Hey guys, I'm Shri Desai and this is the Soulcast podcast, a podcast where we talk about random stuff and take a look at the world around us. So relax, put your headphones on and enjoy this episode. Hey guys, today's podcast is something close to my heart, very close. Something that has helped me throughout my life to analyze situations and just to get me out of boring situations. Books. I haven't read, full disclosure, I haven't read a book in a while. So I have a close friend of mine who reads a lot. We have Divya with us.
Hi.
Divya is not only a book buff, but she is an amazing painter. She also sings and plays instruments to make her own music covers on her Instagram page, which is linked down below, by the way. So check it out if you're into music covers and amazing art. Anyways,
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. I think you're being too nice. I don't read all that much. In fact, I'm going through a slump right now. It's been more than a month since I read anything actually. I started 7 or 8 books and I'm not able to stick with any of them.
yeah, but what we forget is there are a lot of things that we could be discovering out there. That's one of the things why I started this podcast. When we get to it, I wanted to get artists and different people who enjoy doing different things that we may not have heard about, or we may not have information about readily available on the internet, and maybe get their advice or get what they feel about that art and understand it more.
Because a friend of mine does embroidery and I never even thought of embroidery as something I could do, but she came over one day and she was like, okay, here's some needles and some thread, and she taught me how to make some flowers and it was fun. And sure, I watched a few more videos after that. I bought some thread and shit for myself, but then it's okay to just do the thing, and I don't want to sit and pick it apart and analyze it or anything. Some things are just fun and I think I like keeping it that way.
Exactly. So about books, when you talk about books, is it something that you are just reading for fun, or is it just for fun and maybe you are serious about this topic, your hobby about books?
So I have always read for fun. I don't remember a time when I didn't read. I have grown up in a family where reading was always very encouraged. Like my grandparents, my parents, everybody was very pro reading. So it started out with Amar Chitrakatha and Tinkle and
all the
picture
OGs
books
start
and
with
stuff.
that.
All the OGs, exactly. And after that, I slowly moved into Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys and everything. And I enjoyed it so much because it gave me a way to be distracted in school.
Yeah.
I could take a book along with me and nobody would say anything. So yes, definitely it's something I have been doing for fun. Of course, as I started moving into more serious literature and more serious topics that are written about, the process is still just as much fun. So the book itself doesn't need to be fun per se.
Yeah.
But definitely something I do to feel it is sort of like an escape, right?
Yeah, it is an escape.
I was actually going to take literature. I was going to major in literature.
Yeah,
But
nice.
it's in my second year. Yeah, it's in my second year that I realized I was passionate about economics, and I decided to switch fields because I realized that I could still do eco and read on the side, but I couldn't major in literature and do eco on the side. So yeah, I actually considered doing it seriously, but then I can't write to save my life. So I figured I might as well just be a reader, a hobby reader, and stick with that.
So there are people who enjoy eating food who can't cook to save their lives, and it's fine. You don't need to do both the things that are associated to be good at that thing. You can just read for fun.
Of course. It's like saying if you listen to songs, you should be able to sing, or if you listen to music, you should be able to make music. That's the same thing at all.
But the converse is actually not true. If you create something, you should enjoy that thing itself to create. For example, if you enjoy music, only then will you make.
Creativity will come from inspiration. So if you've been following a thing for a while and you enjoy it, that's when you will go out of your way to be like, okay, I want to contribute to this. So yeah, absolutely. But I don't think
So if
it's
you
the
want to
other
be
way
like a
around.
good writer, you need to read. Uh,
Yes, this is actually something that's very underrated. All writers are readers, all storytellers are readers, and all musicians are listeners. Listening to a song is a big part of singing it properly. Reading enough books, even if it's not to find out what to do or to gain inspiration, a lot of the time, reading books, if you want to be a writer, that is, can help you learn what not to do. So this is
yeah.
something Vijay Tendulkar had said, very famous playwright, one of the first bilingual playwrights in India to establish himself. He said that he watched a lot of bad plays voluntarily just to learn what not to do, which is genius in my opinion. It's
Which is
brilliant
actually
because
a
something
really
to
good
learn from
point.
everything.
When you think about it, it's like so simple, but then no one actually thinks about that.
A good way to avoid making a certain mistake is to watch somebody else make it and see it through for the consequences. Like if you went ahead writing a specific type of character arc and you were considering doing it, but you see it done in another play or in another book, and you think, okay, that didn't pan out well at all, and I don't like how it looks. I think you have to enjoy it from a viewer's or reader's point of view also, whatever you're producing.
I started reading, like my mom reads a lot. We didn't have phones or anything, right? Like growing up, it's either go out and play or read or do something, arts and crafts or make best from waste, all that stuff. But then
Oh, I had a
again,
huge art and craft phase. Oh my god, I took everything in the house and I pulled it apart and I ruined it.
yeah, same. I did all that, and then at one point of time, mom was like, "Enough, you're not breaking more stuff." So then I had to like stop for a while. So that time I picked up some books and I started reading. One of the first books I started reading was Sherlock Holmes, and I started reading Tinkle again, like the OG. It was super fun with Supandi and all those characters, and somewhere I got lost in that, and then I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. So that's where all these characters somewhere became my friends.
So my relationship with books was, I mean, I wouldn't say I had friends growing up, but like not a lot of them were readers. So I wasn't able to relate with people about what I was reading, because by the time I was in fifth or sixth grade, I had already read the Tinkles and the Amar Chitra Kathas and everything. And by then I was reading Dan Brown. And I couldn't talk to anybody about the Da Vinci Code. I couldn't talk to anybody about what I was reading at that moment. So that made me feel kind of sad. But I think you raised a really good point about how all the characters and all the stories in Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle are like presented in such a friendly way that it's education, but it doesn't quite feel like it. I will never stop going back to Tinkle and Amar Chitra Katha. I haven't read a book in, I think, 2 months. Last night I read the Amar Chitra Katha about Srinivasa Ramanujan. I was so happy. Oh my god, I read a book.
But then when I started reading more books, obviously I had my Dan Brown phase too, and I could totally relate. Like no one to talk to about Dan Brown. But then you find that one person, you know, you talk to them and they say that they read Dan Brown, and then you just talk for like 2 hours, and everyone around you is like, why are they talking about cults and secret societies?
As an experience, I would recommend Dan Brown to anybody who is just starting out with books, because he writes such gripping stories, although they can be a little difficult to get through the first like 100 or so pages. But after that, I did sort of start to see a formula, but it didn't make the experience any less fun. Like the Dan Brown phase was so important for my reading career or my reading trajectory.
Dan Brown made it easy to understand the stories, the characters, but he also put like a fun twist. Or again, some stories were similar. Like when you read Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons and Inferno, sometimes it starts getting like the same storyline with a different thing. But then again, even in those stories, I felt like I learned about a different culture.
I think another series that does that brilliantly is Percy Jackson. I mean, Uncle Rick introduced like a whole generation of children to Greek, Egyptian, Roman mythology in such a brilliant way. I think even Norse, that what was that? Magnus Chase.
Magnus.
So that entire series, and I read everything. Oh, it's brilliant. I've read it all and I have it, and I will never give that collection away. I still actually go back to those sometimes.
Like after a while, when I was, I moved around a lot. So in 7th and 8th, like I had moved to a new place and I was feeling like completely alienated from all the people around me. And one of my teachers, amazing teacher, she used to like she was my English teacher, okay, and she motivated me to read, get into literature, and I just that time Percy Jackson was huge, okay, like that time was the era of Percy Jackson, a lot of memes and everything. So I actually had seen the movie first, which was a huge mistake, and then I read the books and I was like, whoa. PM. And I remember getting into
terrible.
Yeah, like I remember getting into the frenzy where I finished all like the first Lightning Thief and all those 3-4 books in like 2 weeks because I had the PDF reader and they were already released. And I finished all those books in like 2 weeks. And then after that was the turning point where I started getting into reading. Like I started enjoying reading books. Then I started reading like Harry Potter and all Dan Brown and all those amazing books which were more serious.
I just can't read thrillers. I just have to read stories of pain and trauma and grief. For some reason that draws me more than anything else.
So like the genre that you love reading anything?
So I don't know what this genre is called, but I love stories that feel very human. So that's the reason I said I gravitate towards stories that have pain and violence and grief, because I think that's what makes them that real. And I don't mean stories like with amped up theatrics just to make. My point is that today the reason I really enjoy reading these stories of lived experience, or that are partly based in fiction, but based in reality. I like reading stories like that leave me thinking. You know, a lot of my favorite books as well, a lot of the books that I would like to go back to or have gone back to have been books that taught me something, whether it's about life or people or just like fun facts. Any genre that leaves me thinking. I haven't read it.
You should check it out now. Like I once read it when I was small and I did not understand a single word that was in the book. But then I revisited it a couple of years back, and it was what you're describing basically, a real life places with fictitious characters and something to learn at the end. So you should check out that. It's a really cute book, slightly overrated.
I will. I actually haven't read a lot of these like stellar must-read books. I haven't read Catch 22. I haven't read The Alchemist. I haven't read a whole lot of Husseini. I've just read one. So I will slowly get into the really hyped ones just to see what it's all about. I'm very curious.
I just read like the books. I don't read a lot. I just read for fun, like the books that attract me, and I read like a general. Again, coming to must reads, what is one book that you find comforting? Like a book that you can read anytime, and it's like by your bedside and like.
Okay, there are a lot of books that come on my favorites list, but I think my comfort book would probably be The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. So it's a story about a retired maths professor. He's really old and he only retains 80 minutes of memory. And he sort of refreshes every 80 minutes. Like he can't remember things. And therefore he can't retain a housekeeper because he has his quirks and he requires a certain type of care that's difficult for regular caretakers to manage. So he gets a housekeeper, and this housekeeper that we read about, she has a 10-year-old son, and the three of them have this beautiful bond. And I personally love maths. So there's a lot of math involved, and how there's, maths in daily life, and how you can never really escape it, and how it can be beautiful and it doesn't have to be scary. It's all just so friendly and so wholesome. It has a brilliant, realistic ending, adorable, like character arcs, plot points are all very well spaced. I mean, it is my most favorite book because I will keep going back to that to feel comforted.
Because generally when I ask people, it's like one of those very famous books that they say that I read Harry Potter. And
That's actually advice I give, to not go back to Harry Potter or books that you're very familiar with if you feel like you want to get back into reading, because it makes sense if you're reading a lot and you feel like, oh, let me go back to this. But if you want to get back into reading, it's not recommended, at least not by me. Go back and read a book that you know how it ends, you know what happens. You won't feel quite as motivated to go through it if you know exactly what's going to happen. So pick something similar, but not that,
exactly.
which is why this is my favorite. But I don't know it in and out, but it's nice enough, feels like a hug. People are coming out with such groundbreaking ideas in literature. The whole art form in itself is becoming so inclusive. People have more of a voice than they had before. Not enough, definitely not even close to how much they should, but slowly and steadily there is a change. And I think an advantage that books have is, like, if I'm reading a book, I can decide how that character looks in my head. Like, sure, they'll say dark hair, blue eyes, but I get to imagine the rest of it. I get to imagine how the rest of the setting is. I get to perceive by myself how these things look and have my perfect version of the story in my head. Whereas opposed to a movie, I have to take whatever they're giving. I can't
exactly.
add
Like
other
I
elements.
was talking to one friend who just started reading. I recommended some books to her, and she started reading. The book also has a movie, so she told me that she preferred the movie in some aspect because she knew what the characters looked like. She had a frame of reference, but she liked the books because they covered more details about the characters, and they put, so she could build a complete story in her head. But somewhere I feel I would prefer to read the book because then I can imagine and escape in that world and make the world according to me, like somewhere design the things and imagine. The author is describing everything in high detail, but then some points are left to you, so you imagine that, and that makes the reading experience a bit more better. So
Yeah, and it's a little bit of effort from our side, like from the reader's side, but I don't know. I think it's very good. I
Yeah.
understand what your friend said as well. I can understand that as being a reason for the opposite to have a frame of reference. To know, oh, okay, this person is this, this person is this. But you have to keep track of everything if you're reading. You won't just see the character and be like, oh, this is that guy that I
Yeah.
saw previously. It is some effort, but it makes it worth it for me.
Yeah, it makes the experience a bit more real, where you can escape into it for hours. I remember days when I was reading and I would literally not care if there were explosions around me, and I would just keep reading because the story was going very great and I did not want to leave the book. Hey guys, so the book conversation actually went on for about another 30 minutes. So I have cut it off into another episode which will be coming out next week. So do check it out. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Bye. Oh, hey, it appears you have finished this episode. Thank you for listening. Do check out our other episodes that are there available. We stream on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. New videos are released every Friday at 6 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Oh, wait, before you go, make sure you have subscribed, liked, whatever platform you're on. It really helps out the channel and shows us what topics you're interested in. We'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.